So on Friday, I filmed a video called Should the Utah Jazz Go Rebuild or Retool? I was going to be talking specifically about the concept, should Utah trade one of Donovan Mitchell or Rudy Gobert, or should they keep that duo together going into the 2023 season? And I was going to talk about how I was in favor of going down a retool road, going down that line of keeping those two together. So I filmed that video on Friday. This is Australian time. Edited it Friday night. Went to sleep, ready to wake up, put the final touches on it, and then go and post it. I woke up Saturday morning to a Woj Twitter notification to say that Rudy Gobert had been traded to Minnesota for about 10 first-round picks and 34 different young players. And that video was, in one instance, voided. But I still want to talk about this trade. I want to talk about what I think, coming from the perspective of someone who was against breaking up this core, talk about what my thoughts are now. My thoughts are for Utah, what my thoughts are for Minnesota. We'll talk about the value of the trade, what I think they do next season, how this looks in 2 or 3 years' time, and we'll get all into it. So let's do it. Okay, so I've got the details here of the trade. So just to confirm, the Timberwolves, this is according to Tim McMahon of ESPN, it says the Timberwolves sent Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverley, Vanderbilt, Leandro Balmara, who we haven't even seen play yet, the 22nd pick in the 2022 draft, which was Walker Kessler, and 4 first-round picks to the Jazz. The picks are in 2023, 2025, 27, and in 2029. From what I can see here, the only one that we know has a protection on it is the 2029 pick has a top 5 protection on it. I thought I'd heard that there was a pick swap in there somewhere as well. I might be wrong on that, so that might just not be here. If I find that, I'll talk about that later. But even if this is it, this is an insane return for Rudy Gobert. Because as I don't know whether I said in that opening, I was pro the idea of keeping Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell together. That was what I was going to talk about in that video on Friday. But after looking at, and the reason I was pro that was because I did not think you would get a great return for Rudy Gobert. And I'm still kind of in shock that they have, because if you've looked at the trades this season, teams have been so valuing future cap flexibility. Jeremy Grant went for 1 first-round pick. This happened afterwards, but Malcolm Brogdon went for a first-round pick. Different trades like this, teams have been saying, hey, you look at what the Knicks did. They traded first-round picks just to get off $9 million of Kemba Walker. They obviously, then I think Burks and Noel were in that deal as well, so it's probably close to about $20 million, but they were throwing in picks to get rid of that money. That was obviously to go after Jalen Brunson. That had a specific goal in mind. Maybe Detroit have one for next season as well, I don't know. But it really looks like teams are valuing that future cap flexibility. You look at what the Lakers have even done this year. They haven't signed anyone to more than a 1-year deal, even any of their vet minimums. Lonnie Walker, that has a team option on the 2nd year, I believe. So many teams are saying, hey, we want to have that flexibility going forward. I think a lot of that has come down to what we've seen with guys like Durant and Irving. This, in 1 second, the NBA can be thrown around by a top 5 player requesting a trade, and teams want to have that cap flexibility to go after those guys. Look at someone like Harden. All-Star break, he said he was signing an extension. Obviously, he will sign an extension, but that didn't happen. We've seen that before. Players have said, I'm going to sign this extension. I'm going to be returning. Kyrie Irving told Boston, hey, I'm returning in, 2019, the end of 2019. He said, I'm here to stay. Signed with Brooklyn 3-4 months later. I think teams realize now that things can change so quickly, so having that cap flexibility is crucial. And what is surprising about that with Gobert is that Gobert, and I'm getting this up now on my computer, he is on a, where is it here? He is making, that's previous salaries, he's going to be making up to $46 million in 2026. He is on an absurd contract. That's going to be, they're paying them, about $165 million over the next 4 years, guaranteed. The last year is a player option, so pretty much guaranteed. There might be some safety nets in there about games played or whatever, but basically they're guaranteeing to pay Rudy Gobert over $40 million a year when they're already paying Cat big money. They're going to be paying Edwards big money. They're paying Russell big money. So I was really surprised to see any team was willing to give up I didn't think any team would give up multiple first round picks for someone like Rudy Gobert. I thought that cap flexibility was going to mean more to them than having a center who has offensive limitations, is a beast defensively, but also might have playoff limitations depending on how usable he is in a switching scheme. I think that he is, personally. I think he will be he can switch. I think he's not Giannis or Bam Adebayo, but I think he can be like a Davis or an Al Horford in the fact that he can hold his own in a switching setting. I don't think that will be an issue for him, but we haven't really got to see that because Utah just never ran anything like that in the playoffs. So the fact that they gave up, 4 first round picks and players like Malik Beasley, obviously Beasley, I think his contract, he was less of a asset than his play would have made you think he was. They gave up Vanderbilt, Belmaro, Walker Kessler, and these 4 first round picks, 3 of which are unprotected according to this report. That's insane. I never saw anything going like that. And as I said, I was pro Utah keeping the core together, but it wasn't because I necessarily thought they were a finals contender with 1 extra piece. It was more because I thought, I was thinking you're going to get back from Gobert, maybe like a protected 2024 first round pick, a pick swap in 2026, maybe like a Walker Kessler. That was what I was expecting. And then obviously the salary that you needed to throw in there. And I thought, does that really set you up to build around Donovan Mitchell if that's what you're getting back for Rudy Gobert? I thought, nah, you're better off keeping the 2 and just seeing if you can make it work. But if this is what you're getting, you don't even blink before you trade him. And I think this is great for Utah. They have set themselves up perfectly. They've got back, I didn't even think they'd get this sort of return for Mitchell if they traded him. Yet they've got it for Gobert. So now they've got these pieces to put a roster around Donovan Mitchell that I think can contend. You've got picks in the 4 extra picks. I think from what I can see, they've got their pick this year. So if they want to tank, they can. This is Utah we're talking about here. It'll be interesting to see what they do going into this season. Do they... It'll be interesting to see what Utah do going into this season. Do they keep the roster as it is at the moment? I've got it up here. So that would look like, if they did, you'd have Mitchell, Conley, Bogdanovich, Beasley, Clarkson, Beverly, Rudy Gay, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Vanderbilt, Bolmaro, Udoka Azubuike, and Butler. I think it doesn't stay the exact same. I think they need another center. I think they need to maybe move one of the guards for another wing, but I could see them keeping it sort of around this roster and saying, hey, we're actually going to give our rookie head coach, Will Hardy, a roster that can compete for a season, because we know we've got this draft capital going into the future. So if we take 1 extra season to rebuild, that's okay. We've got the picks, we've got the assets going forward. And maybe we find out, hey, under Will Hardy, this team can do something. And then suddenly we've got these picks not to use, but as trade assets going forward. We can go out and trade for someone in next offseason. We can go and maybe we can use those to offload contracts like Mike Conley and Clarkson and these guys, and then go out and sign a free agent if that's what we need to do. I could see them doing that, going down that road of trying to actually still compete a little bit without Gobert, maybe taking a step back this season, maybe being a play-in tournament team. The West will be competitive around that spot with, I think, the Kings, the Pelicans. I think the Thunder will be better than teams expect. And that, so maybe they drop down to like an 11 or 12 seed this season, Utah. But then next season they keep competing, or they could go full rebuild around this. Go and trade Conley, go and see what the market is for someone like Bogdanovich, what the market is for someone like Clarkson. See if those players can get you even a first round pick or a young player. Maybe one of those guys can get you a young center. I was surprised that Utah didn't fight more to get Naz Reid. I think he would have been like a fantastic fit with this lineup. You could play him at the 5. He's a defender. He spaces the floor, which Mitchell hasn't ever got to play with. I would have loved to see that, see some pick and pops between those two. But I think Minnesota also really value him. He played like 15, 20 minutes for them off the bench last year. He can hit threes. He can defend. You don't give that up off your bench for $1.9 million. I think they would have probably had to take away a first round pick, and I don't think it's worth it for them at that point. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what Utah do. I would go down the road of actually giving this team a season. Maybe you adjust a few things, see whether you can use Alexander Walker and Rudy Gay to trade for another wing or trade for a big. But yeah, I reckon I'd be really interested to see what a lineup of like. You could starting Pat Beverley next to Donovan Mitchell, even though like I know he's an overrated defender, but he's still the best defensive backcourt partner that Mitchell would get to play with in his whole career yet. So start like a Beverley, Mitchell. You could throw like Beasley at the 3, maybe Vanderbilt at the 4. Go on and get a 5, whether that's Azubuike or whether that's someone you trade like a Bogdanovic or a Conley for or a Clarkson for. One of those guys. I think that could be fun. Give that team a year. It'd be defensive minded, which would be fun. I think that would work with Will Hardy coming in. And yeah, I'd be interested to see what Utah could do next season with that roster. Or maybe they go full rebuild. Maybe they look to flip Beasley. Maybe they look to trade Clarkson or Beverley. Maybe they look to trade Conley or Bogdanovic and get younger again. Keep building up on those draft picks. Maybe they go on and trade Donovan Mitchell after all this. If this is the return they're getting for Gobert, they could get 7 first-round picks from Miami or New York. Not that either of those teams had that draft capital. But yeah, maybe they go and trade Mitchell and just fully reset this team. But I would be keen to see, I think I'm really excited if they do keep them around to see Vanderbilt play with Donovan Mitchell. I think Vanderbilt's a great defender. He would be like the best, lengthiest wing defender that Mitchell's ever played with. I think that will work really well for them. I'll be interested to see Vanderbilt playing under Will Hardy this season. And yeah, I think Utah, they have a few ways they could go forward. But ultimately, I think this trade was just phenomenal for them. I think you couldn't have done much better than that with Gobert. As I said, I wasn't against the idea of trading Gobert. I was against the idea of trading Gobert considering what the market was and what the expected return was. I saw a meme last night where it was like Utah talking to Minnesota. It's like, oh, yeah, we'd like to ask for a first-round pick in Minnesota. It's like, no, it's all good. Just take 5. We're happy to give it away. And I feel like Utah didn't even ask for these first-round picks. They just, I still can't believe they got 4 first-round picks and Bolmaro and Walker Kessler and Vanderbilt. I think Vanderbilt, that's a big pickup for Utah. I think that's an underrated part of that because I think he will work really well next to Donovan Mitchell. But yeah, I think this is perfect for Utah. Hey, so I've decided to cut this video into 2 different parts. So if you want to see my thoughts on the Minnesota side of this trade, head over to the other video, part 2. The link will be in the description below. But thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this part. Leave a comment with what you thought. Hit like if you didn't enjoy it. Check me out on social media. We've got Instagram at Protecting the Paint. Hit me up on Twitter at jlewis_bball. If you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear that. But yeah, please go over, check out part 2 to hear my final thoughts, everything I think about the Minnesota side of this, other thoughts on Utah. Hope to see you there.